right, so get ready because today we're going to dive into the world of personal finance.
Okay.
But, not the typical stuff. We're not
Right.
going to be like picking stocks or, talking about how to create a perfect budget.
Yeah,
Today we're going deep into the psychology of money.
I like it.
So it's kind of like,
Yeah.
peeking behind the curtain to see what's really driving our financial decisions,
Absolutely.
what makes us tick when it comes to money.
Yeah, the why behind all of our actions with money.
Yeah, why we make
Yeah.
choices that maybe seem irrational from the outside, or why what works for one person might completely backfire for someone else.
Right. Yeah, totally.
And to guide us on this journey, we're going to be looking at Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money.
Great book.
Yeah.
Super insightful.
It's packed with all these great stories and really makes you think differently about money.
Yeah, it really reframes a lot of the traditional thinking
Yeah, for sure.
about, personal finance and really gets to the core of how, our psychology drives so much
Correlates
of our
to it.
behavior.
And one of the things that I found so interesting right off the bat
Yeah.
is that Housel argues that, obviously the technical aspects of finance are important, right?
Sure.
But they don't paint the whole picture.
No, not even
Our
close.
relationship with money
Mhm.
is so deeply personal, and it's shaped by all of these different things.
Oh, absolutely.
Our experiences, our biases, how we were raised even.
And all those things are unique to us.
Totally.
So it makes sense that we would all have such different relationships with money.
And he illustrates this point perfectly
Yeah.
with a story about a tech millionaire
Oh, yeah.
and this guy.
Okay.
He had all the success,
Uh-huh.
but he had this really strange habit of constantly flaunting his wealth.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I mean, like,
Interesting.
to a crazy degree, like
Okay.
carrying around like wads of cash and just showing it off to people.
Oh, that's...
Like anyone he met.
Yeah, to me, that would almost signal the opposite of what he's trying to achieve.
Right.
Like insecurity almost.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Us.
But I guess that's the point, right?
Right.
Like what seems crazy to one person
Yeah.
might make perfect sense to another, depending on their background, their experiences,
Yeah.
like where they came from.
Totally. And
Oh.
I think that story really highlights how our past experiences with money can really shape our behavior in the present.
For sure. And sometimes it can be unconscious too.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't even realize we're doing it.
Right. Like maybe for him, coming from like a background of scarcity or something,
Right.
maybe that outward display of wealth was like a way to validate himself.
Yeah, to prove something to himself.
Yeah, like I've made it,
Totally.
And you're right, it is like a
Yeah.
form of insecurity.
It's almost like overcompensating in a way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just this reminder that what seems totally bizarre or irrational to us
Right,
might
yeah.
actually make perfect sense to someone else,
Yes.
given their own like unique,
Right.
money blueprint.
Yeah, that's a great term, money blueprint.
Right.
I like that.
Almost like we all have this
Yeah.
internal program
Absolutely.
that dictates how we think about and interact with money.
And that blueprint is built or written
Yeah.
based on all these experiences, everything from childhood to,
Yeah.
whatever economic conditions we've lived through.
Totally. So like someone...
I mean, think about it. Someone who grew up like during hyperinflation
Right.
will have a fundamentally different view of money
Yeah.
than someone who, came of age during a booming economy.
Totally.
Like their whole understanding of risk, of scarcity, of abundance, it's going to be completely different.
It's like we're all speaking different languages.
Yeah, totally.
Based on our own, like,
Like we have different financial dictionary.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's so crucial to recognize because
Mhm.
it helps us understand that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to personal finance.
It's not like a set of rules that works for everyone.
Right.
It's got to be personalized
Totally.
to your own unique situation and background.
And it also, I think, encourages us to be a little more empathetic, right?
For sure.
When we're judging other people's financial choices.
Absolutely.
Even if they seem strange to us.
Yeah.
Like instead of immediately jumping to a conclusion or,
Yeah, like why are they doing that?
yeah, we can maybe pause and ask ourselves like,
Right. Or judging them for it.
Right.
Instead try to understand like...
yeah, what experiences might have shaped their perspective,
Exactly.
and that might lead to some really interesting insights
Totally.
about, just the whole spectrum of financial behavior.
Yeah, and I think it just promotes more understanding and and compassion in general.
Totally.
Which I think we could all use a bit more of. Definitely. And, one of the most intriguing concepts I think that Housel explores is this idea of luck and risk.
Oh, yeah.
And how intertwined they are.
That's a big one.
And he uses this really compelling story to kind of illustrate this point.
Okay.
About Bill Gates and his childhood friend, Kent Evans.
I'm not familiar with this story.
Okay, so they both attended the same elite school, Lakeside.
Okay.
And they had access to, like, at the time, state-of-the-art computers.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about, right?
Yeah. I mean, this was back in the day when computers were rare.
Yeah.
So that's pretty remarkable.
And they both shared this passion for programming. And it's almost eerie how similar their backgrounds and opportunities were.
Right.
But their lives took very different paths.
Okay.
Tragically, Evans died in a mountain climbing accident.
Wow.
And of course, we all know what happened with Gates, you know?
Right. Co-founded Microsoft, became one of the richest people in history.
Yeah, exactly. And it just makes you wonder, like, what if their roles were reversed?
Right.
Would things have unfolded?
It's a question you can't really answer.
You can't.
But it definitely makes you think about the role of chance.
Yeah, and I think that's what Housel's trying to get at, right?
For sure.
Like, while hard work and talent are obviously important, we also have to acknowledge the role of chance and circumstance.
Absolutely. Like, you can do everything right.
Yeah.
But still have things not go your way.
Right.
Or, vice versa.
Right. And he even breaks down, like, the sheer probability of Gates being in the right place at the right time.
Oh, interesting.
Like, born in the U.S. in the right year, attending that specific school.
Yeah.
Like, when computers were emerging as this transformative technology.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how much timing plays a role.
Yeah, it's huge.
In success.
And it really just highlights the immense role.
Yeah.
That luck played in his journey.
Totally.
And that realization, I think, has some pretty profound implications.
Well, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It means we should be really cautious about attributing success solely to skill or failure solely to poor choices.
Yeah, it's never that simple.
Luck and risk, they're always at play.
For sure.
And we tend to underestimate their influence, I think.
And I think it's human nature to try to find patterns and explanations.
Yeah.
Even when they don't exist.
Right. We like to make sense of the world.
Yeah. We like to, make sense of things.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just random.
Yeah, exactly. And I think about, all those business books and articles that dissect, the habits of billionaires.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Like the 7 habits of highly successful people.
Yeah. And, while there's definitely value in learning from successful people, I think we also have to acknowledge that luck might have played a significant role.
A huge role.
In their journey.
It's not the whole story.
Right.
But it's a part of it.
Exactly.
And it's the part that we often overlook.
Yeah. And it works the other way, too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, we beat ourselves up over financial setbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And blame it entirely on ourselves.
Right. Like, it's all my fault.
Yeah. Or, I made a stupid decision.
Yeah. Should have known better.
Yeah. I should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
But what if,
Yeah.
bad luck or some unforeseen circumstance was also a factor.
Right. And it's not to say that we don't make mistakes.
Right.
Or that we shouldn't take responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's also important to recognize that sometimes things are just out of our control.
Yeah, this isn't about making excuses.
Right.
But more about, acknowledging the reality
Yeah.
that sometimes things just happen.
And sometimes the best decision can lead to a bad outcome just because of factors beyond our control.
And that's hard to accept.
It is.
But I think it's really important. And it's a good reminder to be a little kinder to ourselves, right?
Yeah. We're often our own worst critics.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to money.
Yeah. And to recognize that. Even our best decisions can lead to undesirable outcomes.
It's not always a direct correlation between, good decision, good outcome.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes it's just bad luck.
So, we've talked about this idea of our money blueprint and how it can be shaped by our past experiences.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the role of luck and risk.
Yeah.
But then Housel goes on to discuss something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Okay.
And that's the idea of knowing when we have enough.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Right.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of us, there's always this feeling of wanting more.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much we have.
Yeah, and he tells this story about Rajat Gupta,
Oh.
who was the former head of McKinsey and Company.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah.
Top consulting firm.
Yeah, highly successful, you know?
Yeah.
And then he was on the board of Goldman Sachs.
Oh, wow.
Like, this guy was at the top of his game.
Yeah, he had it all.
Yeah, and it's estimated that he had a fortune of around $100 million,
Okay.
but he was convicted of insider trading.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I would never have expected that.
And ended up going to prison.
That's crazy.
It's just baffling, right?
Yeah. Why would someone risk all of that
Right.
for even more money?
When they already have so much.
Yeah.
And it's like that classic case of...
Like, enough is never enough.
Yeah.
It's like, how much is enough?
Right. And I think this is where, like, we need more than just a conceptual
I
understanding.
agree.
Like, how do we practically deal with that?
Right. Yeah, because it's one thing to say, like, oh, yeah, you should be content with what you have.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to actually feel that.
Right. And I think a lot of people, you know, they reach a point where they have enough to cover their needs and wants.
Right.
But then it becomes about, you know, contentment and avoiding that hedonic treadmill.
Yeah, that constant chase for more.
Right. So how do we do that?
Well, one approach, and it sounds kind of basic, but I think it's really powerful,
Okay.
is to consciously shift our focus
Yeah.
from what we lack
Mm-hmm.
to what we already have.
Okay.
So, like, instead of always thinking about what you don't have,
Yeah.
try to focus on all the good things
Right.
that you already have in your life.
And there's actually research
Yeah.
that shows that gratitude
Oh, yeah.
can be really helpful for that.
Totally.
Like, regularly practicing gratitude can help us appreciate our current situation.
Yeah, it's like taking a mental inventory and all
Yeah.
the things you're grateful for.
Yeah, it's like taking a step back and saying, hey, I actually have a lot to be thankful for.
Exactly. And it can really shift your perspective
Yeah.
from one of scarcity to one of abundance.
Totally. Yeah.
And when you feel abundant, you're less likely to feel that need
Yeah.
to constantly chase after more.
And I think another strategy is to maybe try to define our values and goals,
Go.
you know, beyond just material possessions.
Yes, I love that.
Like what truly matters to us in life.
Right, because if you're just focused on accumulating stuff,
Yeah.
you're never going to feel satisfied
Right.
because there's always going to be more stuff to get.
Exactly. So is it, you know, spending quality time with loved ones,
Right.
pursuing creative passions,
Yeah.
making a positive impact on the world. Like
Yeah.
those are things that,
Those are the things that really matter.
right. And
Yeah.
when we focus on those intrinsic values, it can help us lessen the grip of that hedonic treadmill.
Yeah, that feeling of like always needing the next thing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's a tough cycle to break.
It is.
But I think focusing on what truly matters is a really good way to start.
Yeah. It's about finding fulfillment and satisfaction outside of just acquiring more things.
Absolutely. And it's about recognizing that those things, the experiences, the relationships, the impact, those are the things that ultimately bring true happiness.
Totally.
Not the stuff.
And, you know, this ties into the idea of financial freedom, which I think is, you know, something that a lot of people aspire to.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not necessarily about having an unlimited amount of money.
That's
it's
true.
more about having enough to make choices that align with our values and priorities.
Yeah, it's about having the freedom to do what you want when you want.
Exactly. And I think that's a great point to kind of like transition into the next part of our discussion.
Right.
But before we move on, I want to just circle back to this idea of luck and risk.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so easy to get caught up, especially in today's world, with social media and everything.
Right. Everyone's highlighting their best selves and their wins,
Right.
but not their losses.
In comparing ourselves to others.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, it's like this recipe for unhappiness.
Totally. And it can lead to some really bad financial decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
But you don't know what their financial situation actually is.
Right.
You're just seeing this curated version of their life.
Yeah. And we might end up
Yeah.
taking on more risk than we're comfortable with.
Right. Or making impulsive investments.
Right. Or feeling inadequate.
Yeah.
You know, or making decisions.
Or feeling like you're not good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're comparing yourself to this unrealistic standard.
So how do we break free
Yeah.
from that comparison trap?
That's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one strategy is to be really mindful of the information that you're consuming.
Okay.
So instead of like mindlessly scrolling through social media,
Right.
which, let's be honest, often makes us feel worse.
Yeah.
Choose to follow accounts that inspire you or that provide valuable information that's relevant to your goals.
Yeah, like be intentional.
Be intentional with your information diet.
Yeah. It's about being intentional with the information we consume.
Absolutely.
And surrounding ourselves with messages that support our financial well-being rather than...
Instead of the ones that make us feel bad.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I think it's also important to remember that everyone's journey is different.
Oh, for sure.
Like comparing ourselves to others is like... It's like comparing apples to oranges.
It's a classic analogy for a reason.
We don't know the full context of their success.
We don't know the sacrifices they made, the struggles they went through.
The role that luck played.
The advantages they might have had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder to just focus on running our own race.
Yeah. Focus on your own lane.
Yeah.
Compete against yourself.
Exactly. And celebrate our own progress. Yeah. However big or small.
And be proud of how far you've come.
Yeah, totally.
Because everyone's starting line is different.
All right. So in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore this concept of time.
Interesting.
As our greatest financial asset.
Okay.
And how we can harness the power of compounding.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
To achieve true financial freedom.
That's a powerful concept.
So stay tuned for that.
You know, we were talking about like that comparison trap and, always wanting more.
Yeah.
But Housel kind of flips the script and reminds us that our most valuable financial asset isn't money itself.
Right.
It's time.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first read that in the book, I was kind of blown away by that concept. Yeah. It seems so counterintuitive, especially in a world that's so obsessed with instant gratification.
Like, we want everything now.
Right.
We don't want to wait for anything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to investing,
yeah,
time is your greatest ally.
It really is.
Yeah.
And to really drive this point home, he gives this incredible example.
Okay.
Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah, the Oracle of Omaha.
Right, like one of the
investing
most successful investors of all time acquired the vast majority of his wealth after he turned 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's wild, right?
You would think,
You'd think someone who's been investing for decades would have made most of their money when they were younger.
Right, when they had more time to,
right, exactly.
let it compound.
Yeah, you'd think the early years would be, the most fruitful, but...
But that's not always the case.
Not in his case.
And I think that's a good lesson for us.
Totally.
Because we often overestimate the importance of, getting these huge returns.
Right. Chasing those high returns.
Yeah. And we underestimate the power of time.
Yeah.
And I think Buffett's, obviously he's brilliant at picking companies and
understanding the market.
Understanding the market.
Yeah.
But I think his real superpower is his patience.
Yeah.
And his discipline to stick with his strategy for decades.
Right. Like letting compounding really work its magic.
Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what Einstein said.
So for those who maybe aren't as familiar with this concept,
sure.
What exactly is compounding and why is it so powerful?
Okay, so imagine you invest $1,000.
Okay.
And you earn a 10% return in the first year.
Okay.
So now you have $1,100.
Got it.
The next year, you earn another 10%.
Okay.
But this time, it's not just on your original $1,000. It's on the entire $1,100.
Oh, okay.
So you earn $110 in interest, bringing your total to $1,210.
Got it.
So the returns that you earn each year get added to your principal. And then those larger amounts generate even larger returns over time.
It's like a snowball effect.
It is exactly like a snowball effect. Yeah. The longer you let that snowball roll, the bigger it gets.
Right, and I think that's what's so hard for people to wrap their heads around. It's like it doesn't seem that impressive at first, but over time...
But the magic happens over time.
Yeah, the magic really kicks in.
The longer you can let it ride, the better.
And Housel actually compares Buffett to Jim Simons, who is
interesting.
Another brilliant investor who actually achieved higher average annual returns than Buffett.
Okay.
But because Simons started investing later in life, his overall wealth is significantly less.
So even with lower returns, but more time.
More time in the market.
Buffett comes out ahead.
Yeah. And I think that's a really powerful illustration.
It is.
Of how, even those early years of investing can be so incredibly impactful.
Even if you're just investing small amounts.
Right. Exactly.
It's about starting early.
Yeah, it's about consistency over time.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get discouraged.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I can only invest $50 a month.
Right, or $100 a month.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
It's about starting somewhere.
Exactly, and then
letting time work its magic.
Exactly. It's like planting a tree, right?
Perfect analogy.
The sooner you plant it, the taller and stronger it's going to grow.
And the more shade it's going to provide later on.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So we've talked about time being the super valuable asset.
Yeah.
But now Housel throws in a little wrench. Talks about volatility.
Oh.
Which are those ups and downs in the market.
Yeah, the roller coaster.
And he says that it's just an inherent part of investing.
It's unavoidable.
Especially if you're looking for long-term growth.
Right.
And I can already hear some listeners like, you know, clutching their pearls.
Yeah.
Like, wait, aren't we supposed to avoid volatility?
Right. Isn't that what, like, makes people lose money?
Isn't that bad? Yeah.
And it's understandable.
Yeah.
To feel that way.
Right.
Because, like, nobody likes to see their portfolio.
Yeah. No one likes to see red,
drop in value.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's scary.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
If you're in it for the long haul,
yeah,
those short-term fluctuations are just noise.
They're just bumps in the road.
Right. They're
on a long journey.
Bumps in the road on a long journey.
Yeah, you're going to hit some potholes.
Right.
You're going to have some detours.
But it doesn't change your ultimate destination.
But you're still going to get there.
Right.
If you keep going.
But doesn't volatility increase
Sure.
the risk of losing money?
Absolutely it does.
So how do we reconcile that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like, we need long-term growth, but there's this volatility.
So it comes down to perspective and strategy.
Okay.
First, remember that volatility is normal.
Okay.
It's the price that we pay for the potential to earn those higher returns than we would with, safer, less volatile investments.
Like cash or bonds.
Like bonds or cash.
Okay.
So instead of viewing volatility as a punishment, think of it as a fee.
Like a fee we pay.
You're paying a fee
for the opportunity
to participate in the market's growth.
Got it.
So it's like paying an entrance fee to Disneyland.
Okay.
You're gonna, there's gonna be some long lines.
Yeah.
Maybe a few meltdowns.
Yeah. Maybe screaming child.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're there for the overall experience.
Right.
You wouldn't let those minor inconveniences ruin your whole trip.
So instead of panicking and selling off our investments, when the market takes a dip,
take a deep breath.
Yeah, we need to zoom out.
Zoom out. Focus on the long term.
And remember that these short-term fluctuations,
they're just part of the ride.
They're just part of the ride.
Yeah, they're inevitable.
Right.
But they don't define the journey.
And I think another reason why volatility can be so unnerving is because it often feels like everyone's reacting differently to the same events.
Totally.
Like some people are buying while others are selling.
Yep.
And it can be really confusing.
For sure.
To like figure out who's right.
Yeah. And there's that old saying like, the stock market is the only place where people run out of the store when there's a sale.
Right. Exactly.
Like, why are people selling when the prices are going down?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But it's because they're panicking.
Right.
They're reacting emotionally.
So why do investors react
Yeah.
so differently to the same information?
Well, Housel points out that we're not all playing the same game.
Oh, okay.
Some investors are focused on short-term gains.
Okay.
They're trying to time the market.
Got it.
They're trying to jump on the latest hot stock.
Yeah.
They're looking for that quick win.
Right. Okay.
Other investors are in it for the long haul.
Okay.
They're trying to build wealth steadily.
Right.
Over decades.
Got it. So like
a market dip might be a buying opportunity for a long-term investor.
Right.
But it could trigger panic selling for someone who's more focused on short-term gains.
Got it. Okay.
So their goals, their time horizon determines how they interpret and react to the same events.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So
the key takeaway here.
Yeah.
Define your game.
Okay.
What's your investment strategy?
Right.
Stick to it.
Okay.
Don't get swayed by the actions of others.
Right. Because they might be playing by totally different rules.
They might have different goals, different time horizons.
Different risk tolerances.
It's like running a marathon. You wouldn't sprint the first mile just because the person next to you is...
No, you'd burn yourself out.
Right. You got to pace yourself.
Yeah.
According to your
According to your training.
Yeah, training and goals. Knowing that steady, consistent effort is what will
ultimately get you to the finish line.
Get you to the finish line.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And speaking of staying the course.
Yeah.
Housel also talks about the seductive nature of pessimism.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it comes to financial matters.
This is this is so relatable. It's like those headlines you see all the time.
Yeah, like the economy is doomed.
Yeah, or get ready for the next crash.
Yeah, or inflation's out of control.
Yeah.
It's hard not to get sucked in.
It's hard not to feel that fear and anxiety.
The negativity bias.
Yeah, and Housel explains why bad news, especially about the economy, tends to grab our attention.
Yeah, well, for one, it often feels more immediate and impactful than good news.
Right.
Good news is often gradual.
It's subtle.
Subtle.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as attention-grabbing.
Doesn't make a good headline.
It doesn't, no.
Right.
But bad news, that's like, you know.
Yeah, it's scary. It's threatening.
It taps into our primal instincts.
Right. Like our brains are wired to pay more attention to threats than to opportunities.
Yeah, it's like a survival mechanism.
Yeah, but doesn't that tendency to focus on the negative, like cloud our judgment?
It can absolutely cloud our judgment.
And lead us to
irrational decisions.
Yeah, decisions that we might regret later.
Yeah, because we're acting out of fear.
Right, exactly.
Not out of logic.
And I remember during like the 2008 financial crisis,
yeah,
everyone was selling their stocks.
It was panic selling.
Yeah, even those who had like long-term investment goals.
Right.
And it felt like the world was ending.
And that's the danger of pessimism.
Right.
It can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
People panic, sell their assets, prices drop further.
Yeah.
Reinforces that negative narrative.
And then it's hard to break free from that cycle.
It is. But history has shown that even after the most severe crises, markets recover, economies recover.
Right. It's about having that long-term perspective.
It's about staying the course. Yeah. And knowing that this too shall pass.
Right. So it's about acknowledging the reality of risk.
Yeah.
Without letting fear completely
paralyze us.
Yeah, paralyze us.
Yeah, or drive our decision making.
Right, exactly.
We need to be aware of the risks.
Yeah.
But not let them control us.
And Housel really emphasizes that we should be aware of the power of pessimism.
Yeah.
But also remember that progress often happens.
In unexpected ways.
Yeah, in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught up in like the doom and gloom.
The latest doomsday predictions. Yeah. And it's important to stay informed.
Yeah.
But not get overwhelmed by it.
Right. So it's about developing that balanced perspective.
Right. Being a critical thinker.
Yeah.
Evaluating the information.
And this actually leads us to another really interesting point that Housel brings up.
Yeah.
And he says that narratives, the stories that we tell ourselves, play a huge role in shaping our financial decisions.
That's interesting.
Right.
I like that.
And this is one of those things that once you hear it, you're like, oh, that's so obvious.
Yeah, but you never really thought about it.
But I'd never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
Like in that context.
Yeah.
And he uses this really interesting thought experiment of an alien economist.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. Yeah. Visiting Earth in 2007 and then again in 2009, right after the financial crisis.
Right.
And the alien observes that America's capacity for wealth creation hasn't really changed.
Right. The factories are still there.
The factories are still there.
The people are still there.
The people are still working.
The resources are still there.
Technology's even advanced.
Right.
But the economy is in shambles.
Right. Everything's different.
Millions are unemployed.
Yeah.
Fear is rampant.
Right. It's a completely different world.
So what changed?
The story.
The stories we tell ourselves. Like in 2007, the dominant narrative was one of prosperity.
Right. The future is bright.
Endless growth.
Yeah.
But by 2009, it had shifted to one of fear, collapse, and distrust.
Like the sky is falling.
Yeah. So even though like the underlying fundamentals hadn't drastically changed,
right, the
shift in the narrative had this profound impact on people's behavior and ultimately the economy itself.
So powerful.
Right.
And that's just one example of how stories shape our reality.
Totally. And it makes me think about like the stories that we tell ourselves about our own financial abilities.
Yeah, I'm not good with money.
Yeah, or the stock market is rigged.
Or investing is too risky.
Yeah, or I'll never be able to retire. Like all those.
And those stories can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right. If we believe them, they can hold us back from making sound financial decisions.
Absolutely.
So it's crucial to be aware of the narratives,
the stories
that we're buying into. and ask ourselves, like,
are they true?
Are they based on facts?
Yes.
Or are they just based on
fear,
perceptions,
misconceptions,
or what we've been told?
Right. Or maybe past experiences that didn't go well.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're generalizing.
Right. So it's about
Yeah.
questioning our assumptions.
Being open to new information.
Yeah, being open to new information
Yeah.
and recognizing that
The stories we tell ourselves
yeah.
might not always reflect reality.
Right. And I think sometimes the most empowering thing we can do is rewrite those narratives.
Change the story.
Yeah, change the story.
Yeah.
Replace those limiting beliefs with ones that actually support our financial well-being.
I love that. Rewrite your money story.
Yeah. You know, we were just talking about how powerful narratives can be, even when they're not totally accurate.
Right.
But Housel makes this point that I think a lot of people will find really reassuring when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Perfect rationality isn't really the goal.
Okay.
It's more about being reasonable.
I like that.
What's the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference? And why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
It's a subtle but crucial distinction. Being perfectly rational implies making decisions based solely on logic and data.
Okay.
Ignoring emotions or personal circumstances.
Right.
And honestly, in the real world, that's almost impossible.
It's not realistic.
And frankly, not always desirable.
Right.
Like, sometimes our emotions can guide us in the right direction.
Totally.
And Housel illustrates this with a story about Julius Wagner Jaureg, who was this doctor who won a Nobel Prize for a pretty unconventional syphilis treatment.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but also a little scared to ask.
Yeah, you might want to brace yourself for this one.
Okay.
So he induced fevers in his patients by intentionally infecting them with malaria.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And that sounds crazy.
Sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, syphilis was a devastating disease with very limited treatment options.
Right.
And Wagner Jaureg observed that some patients who developed high fevers actually saw their syphilis symptoms improve.
So he was like, I'm just going to give everyone malaria.
Well, not exactly.
That's what it sounds like.
I mean, that's essentially what he did.
Yeah.
But he was doing it with, a purpose.
Oh.
Right.
Like, he had a hypothesis.
He was taking a calculated risk, knowing that
the potential benefits outweighed the potential downsides.
And it's interesting because it shows that sometimes the most effective solutions aren't always the most obvious.
Right. They're not always conventional.
Or conventional.
You got to think outside the box sometimes.
Right.
And Housel connects this to personal finance.
Okay, yeah.
He's saying that striving for perfect rationality can often lead to analysis paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
Where we get so caught up in crunching the numbers, optimizing every little detail that we never actually make a decision or take action.
I've been there.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Yeah, like spending hours researching all these different investment options.
And trying to find the absolute best one.
Yes, and then I end up just doing nothing.
Yeah, because it's overwhelming.
It is.
There's too much information. And that's why he advocates for a more reasonable approach.
Okay.
It's about finding a balance between logic and emotion, data and intuition.
Right, like not ignoring your gut feeling.
Right, exactly. It's about making decisions that are, good enough that you understand and that you can stick with over the long term.
Yeah, even when things get a little messy.
Even when things get messy, because life is messy.
Life is messy.
It's not always going to go according to plan.
Yeah, and I think it's about acknowledging that we're human.
Right. We're not robots.
Yeah.
We have emotions.
And those emotions,
they influence our decisions.
Yeah, they play a role.
Especially when it comes to something as personal as money.
Right. And sometimes the most reasonable choice might not be the one that, maximizes returns on paper.
Right. It might be the one that allows you to sleep well at night.
Right.
Knowing that you've made a decision that aligns with your values and your goals.
And that peace of mind is often worth
priceless.
Sacrificing a few percentage points of return.
Absolutely. And Housel tells this really interesting anecdote about Harry Markowitz, who won a Nobel Prize for developing the modern theory of portfolio optimization.
Okay.
So this guy, literally wrote the book on it.
You'd think he'd be using the most complex model for his own investments.
You would think.
Right.
But no. He opted for a much simpler, more diversified approach.
Oh, that's really surprising.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he recognized that even the most brilliant minds recognize the limits of pure rationality.
Okay.
Sometimes simplicity and peace of mind trump those complex optimization strategies.
So it's about finding what works for you.
Right. Find what works for you, a strategy you understand, you're comfortable with, you can stick with.
Right.
That's what matters.
And this ties into another key theme from the book, I think, and that's that saving money isn't about deprivation.
Right.
It's about freedom and control.
That's a great way to put it.
This is one of my favorite takeaways from the book.
Yeah, me too.
It completely reframes how we think about saving.
Instead of viewing it as a chore or a sacrifice.
Yeah, like, I have to give this up.
Yeah, I can't do this, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But it's an investment in your future freedom.
It's an investment.
Yeah.
And Housel really emphasizes
that
the highest dividend money pays isn't a percentage return.
It's the ability to make choices.
Yeah. To control your time.
Control your time, control your options.
And your options.
Yeah.
And he even shares his own story of choosing a lower paying job that gave him more flexibility.
Or control over his schedule.
And control over his schedule. Yeah. And I think that's such a powerful example.
It is.
Of how money, when used wisely, can buy us something far more valuable.
Material possessions.
Yeah, like freedom, exactly. It's about having the ability
to walk away from a job you hate.
Yes.
To start a business. To take time off to travel.
To spend time with loved ones.
Yeah, without being shackled by financial constraints.
And in a world where competition is fierce.
Job security is fleeting.
Yeah. Automation is transforming the workplace.
Things are changing so rapidly.
Having that kind of flexibility is more important than ever.
It's like having an emergency fund.
Right.
Not just for unexpected expenses.
Yeah.
But for life itself.
Right. It's about knowing you have options.
Yeah.
You're not trapped by circumstances.
You're not a victim of your circumstances.
Exactly. And I think this brings us back to that idea of enough.
Okay, yeah.
Like true wealth isn't about
having an unlimited amount of money.
Yeah. Having an unlimited amount of money.
It's about having enough.
Yeah. Enough to live a life.
To live a life that you love.
That aligns with your values.
That's aligned with your values.
Your
priorities. Without being burdened by that financial stress.
Yeah.
Or the constant pursuit of more.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the psychology of money.
What a great book.
Such a good book. I want to leave our listeners with just a few final questions.
Okay, I like it.
To ponder.
Okay.
We've talked about how everyone has a unique money blueprint.
Shaped by their experience.
Shaped by their experiences and their biases.
Yeah.
So what steps can you take to become more aware of your own money blueprint and how it might be influencing your financial decisions?
Right, because once you're aware of it,
yeah,
you can start to change it.
Exactly. And remember the power of time.
Your greatest asset.
As your greatest financial asset.
Yeah.
So what small changes can you make today to harness that magic of compounding?
Right, start small.
Yeah, start small.
But start today.
Could be setting up an automatic investment plan.
Yeah, automate your savings.
Increasing your savings rate.
Yeah, even a little bit can make a difference.
Maybe just educating yourself about different investment options.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more you know, the better equipped you'll be.
The key is to take action.
Take action.
No matter how small.
Right.
And start moving in the direction of your financial goals.
Yeah, momentum builds momentum.
Yeah, it does.
So once you start taking those small steps, it gets easier to keep going.
And remember, it's a marathon.
Not a sprint.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself.
Be patient, be disciplined.
Yeah.
And with a little bit of self-awareness, I think you can use these insights.
Learn the psychology of money.
To create a life of financial well-being and freedom.
Absolutely. It's a great book.
Such a good book.
Highly recommend it.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring.
We truly appreciate you tuning in to this podcast. Your time and support mean the world to us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on future content. And if you found value in what we shared, we'd love for you to leave a review or share it with a friend. It helps us grow and keep bringing you amazing episodes. Stay connected, stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next one. Until then, keep listening and keep exploring. Jardim, thank you. Podcast community. Subscribe now.